I was under the hood of my battered Ford when I heard my life collapse through the kitchen window. "Dad's a joke, Mom. Everyone knows you're with someone better now." My daughter Ruby's voice carried that particular teenage cruelty that cuts deeper than any knife. My wrench slipped, scraping knuckles against the engine block. Pain shot up my arm, but it was nothing compared to what came next. "Ruby, keep your voice down." That was Melanie, my wife of 16 years. "Your father doesn't need to hear this." "Why? It's not like he doesn't already know. Aidan's car was here yesterday when Dad was at work. Mrs. Green saw everything." I stood there in my driveway, grease on my hands, listening to my marriage get dissected by a 17-year-old with a smartphone and zero filter. The Pacific Northwest drizzle started again, typical for our mid-sized city where everyone knows everyone else's business. "Aidan and I are just friends," Melanie said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Right. Friends who text each other heart emojis at midnight. I saw your phone, Mom." My hands were shaking now. Aidan Morrison, my old buddy from high school, the guy I'd helped get his real estate license 10 years ago, the same Aidan who'd been coming around more often lately, always with some excuse about helping Melanie with her marketing projects. I wiped my hands on an old rag and walked toward the house. The front steps creaked under my weight, another repair I'd been putting off. Through the window, I could see them in the kitchen. Melanie looked polished as always, her auburn hair perfect despite the early hour. She worked as a marketing director downtown, climbing the corporate ladder while I struggled to keep my small construction business afloat. Ruby sat at the counter, scrolling through her phone. She had her mother's sharp features and my stubborn streak, a combination that made her formidable when she wanted something. "Where's your brother?" Melanie asked. "Eli's at soccer practice. Coach Martinez picked him up an hour ago." "Good. At least my 12-year-old son didn't need to hear this conversation." I pushed through the back door, letting it slam harder than necessary. Both women looked up, guilt flashing across their faces. "Morning, ladies." I kept my voice level, conversational. "Interesting discussion you're having." Ruby's eyes went wide. Melanie straightened, shifting into damage control mode. "Tom, we were just discussing my apparent status as the neighborhood joke. Don't let me interrupt." The kitchen felt smaller suddenly, like the walls were closing in. This was the same room where we'd shared thousands of meals, where I'd helped Ruby with homework, where Melanie and I had planned our future over morning coffee. Now it felt like enemy territory. "Dad, I didn't mean—" Ruby started. "Sure you did." I poured myself coffee from the pot Melanie had made. "Question is, how long has everyone been talking behind my back?" Melanie crossed her arms. "Nobody's talking behind your back, Tom. You're being paranoid." "Am I? Because according to our daughter, the whole neighborhood knows about you and Aidan. Mrs. Green saw his car here yesterday. That's news to me, considering I thought you were at work." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The silence stretched between us. Ruby's phone buzzed, but she ignored it, watching our marriage implode in real time. "Aidan stopped by to help me with a presentation," Melanie said finally. "It's not what you think." "What I think is that my wife is lying to my face while our daughter posts about it on social media." I turned to Ruby. "What platform this time? TikTok, Instagram, or are you saving the really juicy stuff for Snapchat?" "Tom, that's enough." Melanie's voice had that edge it got when she was losing control of a situation. "No, it's not nearly enough." I set down my coffee mug harder than necessary. "See, I've been noticing things. Late nights at the office that don't show up on your calendar. New clothes you can't afford on your salary. That expensive perfume you started wearing last month." Ruby was recording now, holding her phone low but obvious. Everything was content to her generation. "You're being ridiculous," Melanie said, but she was fidgeting with her wedding ring. "Then show me your phone." The request hung in the air like a challenge. Melanie's face went pale. I'm not showing you anything. I shouldn't have to prove my innocence to my own husband. Innocence? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's an interesting word choice. My phone buzzed. A text from Big Mike at the boxing gym. You coming in today? Got some new heavy bags that need breaking in. The gym, my sanctuary. The one place where everything made sense, where problems got solved with sweat and determination instead of lies and manipulation. I'm going to work, I said, grabbing my keys from the counter. Tom, wait. Melanie reached for my arm, but I stepped back. Don't. Just don't. I walked out the same door I'd entered, leaving my coffee cooling on the counter and my family in stunned silence. The Ford started on the third try, coughing to life like an old man with emphysema. As I backed out of the driveway, I saw Mrs. Green peeking through her curtains next door. The drive to my job site took 20 minutes through streets I'd known my whole life, past the high school where Melanie and I had met, past the church where we'd gotten married, past the park where we'd taught our kids to ride bikes. Everything looked the same, but something fundamental had shifted. The life I'd built was cracking apart, and I was the last one to notice. My crew was already at work when I arrived. Jimmy and Carlos were framing the second story of a custom home for some tech executive who'd moved up from California. Good guys, reliable, but they looked at me differently now, like they knew something I didn't. Morning, boss, Jimmy called out. You okay? You look like hell. Just tired. I grabbed my tool belt from the truck. How's the framing coming? Good. Should have the second floor done by Friday if the weather holds. I threw myself into the work, measuring and cutting, the familiar rhythm of construction soothing my frayed nerves. But even with my hands busy, my mind kept circling back to that conversation in the kitchen. Everyone knows you're with someone better now. The words stung because they contained a grain of truth I'd been avoiding. Melanie was successful, polished, moving up in the world. I was a small-time contractor with calloused hands and a truck that barely ran. In her world of marketing executives and corporate events, I was an embarrassment. Around noon, my phone rang. Melanie's name on the screen. What do you want? I answered. Tom, please, can we talk about this like adults? Adults don't sneak around behind their spouse's back. I'm not sneaking around. You're being paranoid and jealous, and it's not attractive. Not attractive. Like I was some lovesick teenager instead of her husband of 16 years. Where are you right now? I asked. At work. Where else would I be? Put me on speaker. Let me hear your office. Silence. Tom, I don't have time for these games. I have a meeting in 10 minutes. With Aidan? With my team, about the Henderson account. But something in her voice was off. Too controlled, too careful. I'll call you back, she said, and hung up. I stared at the phone, anger building in my chest like steam in a pressure cooker. Jimmy was watching me from across the job site, concern written on his weathered face. Boss, maybe you should take the afternoon off, get some rest. I'm fine. But I wasn't fine. Nothing was fine. My marriage was falling apart, my daughter was broadcasting it to the world, and I was standing in the middle of a construction site questioning everything I thought I knew about my life. The afternoon dragged by. Every time my phone buzzed, I expected another revelation, another piece of evidence that my wife was living a double life. But the texts were just work-related, suppliers, clients, the usual business that kept my small company running. At 5 o'clock, I packed up my tools and headed home, dreading what I might find. The house looked normal from the outside. Melanie's BMW in the driveway, lights on in the kitchen. But normal was an illusion now. I sat in my truck for a moment, engine running, trying to decide what to do next. Confront her again, pretend nothing had happened, pack a bag and leave. Instead, I did something I'd never done before. I opened the Find My Phone app and checked Melanie's location. According to the GPS, Her phone was at the Riverside Inn, a cheap motel on the wrong side of town. The same motel where we'd joked about never staying, even in an emergency. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. The Riverside Inn. At 5:15 on a Tuesday afternoon. I put the truck in reverse and backed out of my driveway, Mrs. Green still watching from her window. Time to find out exactly what kind of fool I'd been. The Riverside Inn squatted on the edge of town like a guilty secret. Peeling paint, flickering neon sign, the kind of place where people went when they didn't want to be found. I parked across the street, engine idling, watching the parking lot through the drizzle. There it was. Aidan's silver BMW, parked in front of room 237. The same car I'd helped him pick out 3 years ago when his real estate business started taking off. I sat there for 10 minutes, rain drumming on the roof of my truck, trying to process what I was seeing. Part of me wanted to storm across the street and pound on that door. The other part wanted to drive away and pretend I'd never seen anything. But I couldn't unsee it. My wife's phone was in that room, along with my old friend and whatever was left of my marriage. Instead of confronting them, I did something smarter. I took pictures. The BMW's license plate, the motel sign, the room number, evidence. Then I drove to the hardware store and bought a valve stem tool, the kind used to let air out of tires. 20 minutes later, I was back at the Riverside Inn. The BMW sat there like a monument to betrayal, chrome gleaming despite the overcast sky. I worked quickly, removing the valve stems from all 4 tires. Not slashing them, that would be vandalism. Just removing a small part that would make the tires go flat slowly, naturally. I left a note under the windshield wiper. Enjoy explaining this to your wife. A concerned neighbor. Then I drove home, feeling something I hadn't experienced in months. Control. The house was quiet when I got back. Melanie's car in the driveway, but no sign of her inside. I checked the Find My Phone app again. Her location showed as home, but she wasn't here. Smart woman. She'd left her phone behind. I went to our bedroom and started packing a bag. Not everything, just enough clothes for a few days. While I was folding shirts, I noticed something different about Melanie's side of the closet. New lingerie I'd never seen before, expensive stuff, the kind she used to wear for me in the early years of our marriage. My phone rang. Melanie, calling from somewhere that wasn't home. Tom, where are you? Home. Where are you? I had to run an errand. I'll be back soon. What kind of errand requires leaving your phone behind? Silence. Then, what are you talking about? My phone is right here. No, it's not. It's sitting on the kitchen counter and you're somewhere else entirely. I could hear traffic in the background, the sound of cars passing at speed. She was on a main road somewhere, probably in Aidan's BMW with 4 flat tires. Tom, you're scaring me. This paranoid behavior isn't healthy. You know what's not healthy? Lying to your husband's face while having an affair with his friend. I'm not having an affair. Then why were you at the Riverside Inn an hour ago? The line went quiet, except for the background traffic. I'd caught her, and we both knew it. I can explain, she said finally. I'm sure you can. You always were good with words. It's what makes you such a successful marketing director. Tom, please, come home and we'll talk about this. I am home. You're the one who's somewhere else. I hung up and finished packing. 2 suitcases, everything I needed for a week or 2. I wasn't running away. I was making a point. Ruby came home while I was loading the truck. She took one look at the suitcases and pulled out her phone. Dad, what are you doing? Leaving. Seems like everyone thinks I'm a joke anyway. Might as well make it official. You can't just leave. What about Eli? My son. The one person in this family who still looked at me like I was a hero instead of an embarrassment. Eli will be fine. Your mother's got everything under control. Ruby was recording again, narrating my departure for her followers. So my dad's like totally losing it and moving out. This is so cringe. I stopped loading and looked at her directly. Ruby, turn off the camera. It's a free country, Dad. Turn it off, or I'll tell your followers about the time you got suspended for cheating on your SATs. The phone disappeared quickly. Ruby's social media presence was carefully curated to show only her best moments. You wouldn't. Try me. I'm apparently the villain in this story anyway. Might as well play the part. I threw the last suitcase in the truck bed and climbed behind the wheel. Ruby stood in the driveway, looking younger than her 17 years. Where are you going to stay? Don't worry about it. Tell your mother I'll be in touch. I drove away without looking back, leaving my daughter standing in the driveway and my life in ruins behind me. The extended stay motel on Highway 101 wasn't much, but it was clean and anonymous. I checked in under my own name, no point hiding, and carried my bags to a room that smelled like industrial disinfectant and broken dreams. My phone had been buzzing constantly during the drive. Texts from Melanie, missed calls, voicemails I didn't want to hear. I turned it off and sat on the edge of the bed, trying to figure out what came next. The smart thing would be to call a lawyer, start divorce proceedings, divide assets fairly, and move on with my life. But I wasn't feeling smart. I was feeling angry, betrayed, and tired of being the nice guy who got walked on. I turned my phone back on and scrolled through the messages. Melanie had sent 17 texts, each one more desperate than the last. Tom, please come home. We need to talk about this. You're overreacting. I can explain everything. The kids need you here. This isn't what you think. Tom, answer me. The last message was different. Fine. If you want to act like a child, go ahead, but don't expect me to wait around forever. There it was. The real Melanie, the one who showed up when she wasn't getting her way. Not the apologetic wife begging for forgiveness, but the woman who thought she was too good for a small-time contractor with dirt under his fingernails. I called Big Mike at the boxing gym. Tom, where the hell are you? You missed training today. I need a favor, Mike. Can I use the gym after hours for a few days? Just to think. Course you can. You got keys. But what's going on? You sound like garbage. Marriage problems. Ah, hell. Sorry, brother. Women, right? Can't live with them. Can't sell them on eBay. Big Mike was 65, divorced 3 times, and the closest thing to a father figure I had left. He'd taught me to box when I was 15 and angry at the world. Now, I was 42 and angry at my world. Thanks, Mike. I owe you. You don't owe me nothing. Just don't do anything stupid, okay? Whatever's going on, there's always a smart way and a dumb way to handle it. What if the smart way doesn't feel like enough? Then you hit the heavy bag until it does. I spent the evening at the gym, working out frustration on leather and canvas. Each punch was a question I couldn't answer. How long had this been going on? Was Aidan the first, or just the latest? Did my kids know? Did everyone know except me? By the time I got back to the motel, I had a plan. Not a good plan, maybe, but a plan nonetheless. I was done being the clueless husband, done being the neighborhood joke. If Melanie wanted to play games, I'd show her what a real game looked like. I opened my laptop and started researching. Private investigators, divorce attorneys, asset protection strategies. If this marriage was over, I was going to make sure I didn't get destroyed in the process. But first, I had some phone calls to make. The first was to my brother Danny, who worked in IT for the city. I need a favor, I said, and it's probably not entirely legal. Those are the best kind. What do you need? I want to know everything about Aidan Morrison's finances, real estate deals, bank accounts, business partnerships, everything. That's definitely not legal, Tom. What's going on? I told him about the affair, the motel, the lies. Danny listened without interrupting, the way he had when we were kids and I was explaining why I'd gotten in trouble at school. That's rough, brother. But hacking into someone's financial records could get me fired and arrested. I'm not asking you to hack anything. I'm asking you to use your access to public records. Property transfers, business licenses, tax liens, all public information. Ah, That's different. That's just good research. Exactly. Give me 24 hours. I'll see what I can find. The second call was to Shannon Walsh, Melanie's best friend, and the woman I'd fired from my construction company 3 years ago for showing up to work intoxicated. She answered on the first ring. Tom, is everything okay? Melanie's been calling everyone, looking for you. Has she? What's she been saying? Just that you two had a fight and you left. She's worried sick. I bet she is. Shannon, can I ask you something? How long have you known about Aidan? The pause told me everything I needed to know. Tom, I don't know what you mean. Sure you do. You've always been Melanie's confidant, her partner in crime. So how long have you known she was cheating on me? I think you should talk to your wife about this. I think you should be honest with me for once in your life. Another pause. Then, Tom, you're a good guy, but you haven't been the husband Melanie needs. She's been unhappy for years. So that justifies lying and cheating? It justifies her finding someone who appreciates her. There it was. The truth, finally. Shannon hadn't just known about the affair. She'd probably encouraged it. Thanks for clearing that up, I said. I'll remember this conversation. Tom, don't do anything you'll regret. Oh, I won't regret this, but you might. I hung up and made one more call. This one to Eli's soccer coach. Coach Martinez, this is Tom Patterson, Eli's dad. I wanted to let you know that my wife and I are having some problems, and I might not be at practice for a few days. But I want you to know that whatever you hear about me, I love my son, and I'm not abandoning him. Of course, Tom. These things happen. Eli's a good kid, and he talks about you all the time. He's proud of his dad. That hit harder than I expected. At least one person in my family still believed in me. Thanks, Coach. Take care of him for me. Always do. I spent the rest of the night planning my next moves. If Melanie wanted to play the victim, I'd give her something to really complain about. If Aidan wanted to steal my wife, he was going to pay a price for it. And if Shannon wanted to be part of the conspiracy, she'd learn what happened to people who crossed me. I wasn't the same man who'd driven away from his house 12 hours ago. That guy was naive, trusting, willing to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. This guy was going to be a problem. I woke up in the motel room at 5 a.m., feeling more focused than I had in months. My phone showed 14 missed calls from Melanie and a single text from Eli. Dad, where are you? Mom's crying. My son. The only innocent in this whole mess. I texted back, I'm okay, buddy. This isn't about you. I love you. His response came immediately. Love you too. Are you coming home? Soon. Take care of your mom and sister for me. Okay. But Dad, Mom's friend Aidan is here a lot now. I don't like him. Smart kid. He'd figured out what I'd been too blind to see. I showered, dressed, and drove to the diner on Main Street for breakfast. The place was full of familiar faces, contractors, shop owners, people I'd known for years. Some nodded hello. Others looked away quickly, uncomfortable. Word was spreading. In a town this size, secrets didn't stay secret long. I was working on my second cup of coffee when Danny walked in, looking like he hadn't slept. My brother was 3 years younger than me, but stress had aged him. His job with the city IT department paid well, but it came with the kind of pressure that put gray in your hair before 40. You look terrible, I said as he slid into the booth across from me. You look worse. When's the last time you slept? Sleep's overrated. What did you find? Danny pulled out a folder thick with printouts. Your friend Aidan's been busy. 3 properties purchased in the last 6 months, all with cash down payments. That's unusual for a real estate agent. Where'd he get the money? That's where it gets interesting. He's been getting private loans from investors, using his real estate connections. But the terms are weird. Really high interest rates, short payback periods. Either he's desperate or he's planning something big. I flipped through the documents. Property transfers, loan agreements, business partnerships. Aidan was leveraging everything he owned to buy more properties. He's house flipping, I realized. Buying cheap properties, fixing them up, selling them for profit. It's a good business if you know what you're doing. But risky if you don't. And get this, 2 of his recent purchases have liens against them. Previous owners didn't pay their taxes. If those liens aren't cleared, Aidan could lose everything. How much are we talking about? Combined? About $40,000 in back taxes and penalties. I smiled for the first time in days. Danny, you're a genius. I'm also unemployed if anyone finds out I gave you this information. Nobody's going to find out. This is all public record, right? Technically, yes, but the way I accessed it. Don't worry about it. I owe you big time. Danny finished his coffee and stood up. Tom, whatever you're planning, be careful. Aidan's got friends in this town. Important friends. So do I. After Danny left, I sat in the diner studying the documents. Aidan was overextended, gambling everything on a real estate bubble that could burst at any moment. All it would take was one deal going wrong, one property not selling, and his whole empire would collapse. I could work with that. My phone rang. Melanie again. Tom, please. We need to talk. I'm listening. Not over the phone. Come home, the kids miss you. Do they? Because yesterday Ruby was telling the whole neighborhood what a joke I am. She's 17. She says things she doesn't mean. And what about you, Melanie? Do you say things you don't mean? Silence. Tom, I made a mistake. Can we please work through this? What kind of mistake? The kind where you accidentally ended up in a motel room with my friend? The kind where you accidentally bought new lingerie for him? The kind where you accidentally lied to my face for months? It's not what you think. Then explain it to me. Make me understand how my wife ends up at the Riverside Inn with another man. I can't do this over the phone. Then I guess we're done talking. I hung up and walked out of the diner, leaving money on the table and a plan forming in my head. The first stop was City Hall, where I filed a complaint about unpaid property taxes on Aidan's recent purchases. Public record showed the liens, but nobody had been actively pursuing collection. A formal complaint would trigger an investigation, putting pressure on Aidan to come up with $40,000 quickly. The second stop was the office of the local newspaper. I'd known Janet Peterson, the editor, since high school. She owed me a favor from when I'd helped repair her roof after a storm last year. Tom Patterson, she said, when I walked into her cluttered office. I heard you and Melanie were having problems. I'm sorry. Word travels fast. Small town. What can I do for you? I handed her a folder with copies of Aidan's property records. I've got a story for you. Local real estate agent buying properties with unpaid tax liens. Could be fraud, could just be sloppy business practices. Either way, it's news. Janet flipped through the documents, her reporter instincts kicking in. This is good stuff. But why bring it to me? What's your angle? Aidan Morrison is having an affair with my wife. I want him to suffer. Tom, I can't run a story just because you're angry at the guy. You're not running it because I'm angry. You're running it because it's legitimate news. A real estate professional should know better than to buy properties with liens against them. His clients deserve to know what kind of judgment he has. Janet studied the documents more carefully. You're right. This is sloppy at best, potentially fraudulent at worst. Give me a few days to verify the information. How long before it runs? Friday's edition, assuming everything checks out. Perfect. That gave me time to set up the next phase. I spent the afternoon driving around town looking at Aidan's properties. 2 were in decent neighborhoods, older homes that could be renovated and flipped for a profit. The third was in a rougher area, a fixer-upper that would need major work. All 3 had for sale signs in the front yards with Aidan's name and phone number, but based on the condition of the properties and the current market, he'd be lucky to break even after renovation costs. I parked across from the third property and called the number on the sign. Morrison Real Estate, Aidan speaking. Hi, I'm interested in the property on Elm Street, the fixer-upper. Great. It's a fantastic investment opportunity. Are you looking to flip or hold for rental income? Flip, probably. What's your asking price? Listed at 120, but I'm motivated to sell. Could probably do 110 for the right buyer. 110,000 for a house that needed at least 50,000 in repairs, in a neighborhood where comparable homes sold for 140 at most. The math didn't work unless Aidan was planning to cut corners on the renovation. I'd like to see it, I said. How about tomorrow morning? Perfect. 10 o'clock? See you then. I hung up and smiled. Aidan had no idea he was about to show a house to his girlfriend's husband. The evening was spent at the boxing gym, working out aggression on the heavy bags while Big Mike watched from his office. The old man had seen enough broken marriages to recognize the signs. "You're hitting different tonight," he said when I took a break. "Angrier. I found out some things today. About my wife, about her boyfriend, about how stupid I've been. Stupid's not the word I'd use. Trusting, maybe. Loyal. Those aren't bad things, Tom. They are when everyone else is playing by different rules." Big Mike leaned against the doorframe, his weathered face serious. "You know what the difference is between a good fighter and a great one?" "What?" "A good fighter reacts, gets hit, hits back. A great fighter thinks 3 moves ahead, controls the pace, sets the traps, makes his opponent fight his fight." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you're not a reactor, Tom. You're a planner. Use that." I went back to the heavy bag, but Mike's words stuck with me. Control the pace, set the traps, make them fight my fight. By the time I got back to the motel, I had a clearer picture of what came next. Aidan was overextended financially and about to be exposed in the newspaper. Melanie was desperate to keep her affair secret and her marriage intact. Shannon was playing puppet master, thinking she was smarter than everyone else. They all had weaknesses, pressure points I could exploit. I opened my laptop and started making a list. Names, relationships, secrets I'd learned over the years. In a small town, everyone had something they didn't want exposed. Aidan's business was built on reputation and referrals. A scandal would ruin him. Melanie's career depended on her image as a successful, stable marketing professional. A messy divorce would hurt her prospects. Shannon had been collecting unemployment benefits while working under the table for a catering company. That was fraud. 3 people who thought they were untouchable. 3 people who were about to learn that the quiet, reliable contractor they'd dismissed was more dangerous than they'd imagined. I spent the rest of the night planning their destruction, one careful step at a time. I arrived at the Elm Street property at 9:50, parking down the block where I could watch Aidan arrive. He pulled up in a rental car, probably still dealing with the flat tire situation from yesterday. Even from a distance, I could see the stress in his posture as he got out and walked toward the house. The property was worse than I'd expected. Peeling paint, sagging porch, windows that needed replacing. In the harsh morning light, it looked like a money pit. I gave him a few minutes to unlock the door and turn on lights, then walked up the cracked sidewalk. Aidan was standing in the front room, checking his phone, when I knocked. "Come on in, it's open," he called out. I stepped inside and watched his face change as he recognized me. Confusion first, then understanding, then something that might have been fear. "Tom, what are you doing here?" "Looking at real estate. Isn't that what you do?" The house smelled like mold and neglect. Water stains on the ceiling suggested roof problems. The hardwood floors were warped and would need to be replaced entirely. "I don't think this is a good idea," Aidan said, moving toward the door. "Why not? You said you were motivated to sell. I'm a motivated buyer." "Tom, about Melanie." "What about her?" Aidan was sweating despite the cool morning air. He'd always been smooth, confident, the kind of guy who could sell ice to penguins. Now he looked like he wanted to run. "It's not what you think. Everyone keeps saying that, but nobody wants to tell me what it actually is." I walked through the house slowly, professionally, checking the foundation, testing light switches, opening cabinets. Aidan followed at a distance, like he was afraid I might hit him. The electrical's shot, I said, flipping a switch that did nothing. Plumbing's probably original. Foundation has settling issues in the back corner. You're looking at 60,000–70,000 in repairs before this place is livable. It's a good investment opportunity. For who? You're asking $110 for a house that needs $70 in work, in a neighborhood where fixed-up places sell for $140. The math doesn't work unless you're planning to flip it to someone who can't do basic arithmetic. Aidan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face went pale. Problem? I asked. No, just work stuff. But I could see the screen from where I stood. A text from Melanie. Where are you? Tom's asking questions about money. Melanie's worried about you, I said conversationally. Seems like you two have been spending a lot of time together lately. Tom, I can explain. I'm sure you can. You always were good with explanations. Remember in high school when you got caught cheating on the chemistry final? You convinced Mr. Henderson that you were just helping the kid next to you. That was different. Was it? Because it seems like you're still helping yourself to things that don't belong to you. I walked into the kitchen, noting the rotted subflooring and outdated appliances. Behind me, Aidan was breathing hard, like he'd been running. How long? I asked without turning around. How long what? How long have you been having an affair with my wife? The silence stretched between us. I could hear traffic outside, the distant sound of construction equipment, normal life continuing while my world fell apart. 6 months, he said finally. Maybe 7. I nodded, filing away the information. Her idea or yours? Tom, this isn't... Her idea or yours, I repeated, turning to face him. It just happened. We were working on a marketing project for one of my properties, spending a lot of time together. One thing led to another. One thing led to another. That's poetic. Really captures the romance of destroying a 16-year marriage. Aidan's phone buzzed again. This time he didn't look at it. I never meant for it to happen, he said, and I never meant for you to get hurt. But I did get hurt, and now you're going to get hurt too. What's that supposed to mean? I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You'll figure it out. I walked past him toward the door, then stopped. Oh, and Aidan? And you might want to check your tax records on these properties. I hear the city's starting to crack down on unpaid liens. His face went white. How did you... Small town. Word gets around. I left him standing in that rotting house, probably calling his accountant before I'd even reached my truck. The next stop was Melanie's office downtown. The building was all glass and steel, the kind of modern architecture that was supposed to represent success and innovation. I'd helped build the parking garage underneath it 5 years ago. The receptionist recognized me from company parties. Hi, Mr. Patterson. Are you here to see Melanie? If she's available. Let me check. She picked up the phone, spoke quietly, then hung up. She'll be right out. Melanie appeared 2 minutes later, looking professional in a dark suit that probably cost more than I made in a week. But I could see the stress around her eyes, the careful way she held herself. Tom, this is a surprise. We need to talk. My office? I followed her through a maze of cubicles and conference rooms to a corner office with windows overlooking the city. Photos on her desk showed our family in happier times. Vacations, birthdays, moments when we'd actually liked each other. Sit down, she said, closing the door. I'll stand. This won't take long. Melanie moved behind her desk, putting furniture between us like a barrier. Tom, about yesterday. I just came from seeing Aidan. Her carefully controlled expression cracked slightly. You what? He was showing me a house. Terrible investment, by the way. Your boyfriend's not as smart as he thinks he is. He's not my boyfriend. What is he then? Your business partner? Your marketing consultant? Your afternoon entertainment? Tom, please. Can we discuss this at home? People can hear. Let them hear. I'm done protecting your reputation. I sat down in the chair across from her desk, making myself comfortable. Aidan says it's been going on for 6 or 7 months. Is that accurate? Melanie's hands were shaking as she reached for her coffee cup. Tom, you're putting me in an impossible position. You put yourself in this position when you decided to cheat on your husband. It's not that simple. Sure it is. You made a choice. Every day for 6 months you chose to lie to me, to sneak around with my friend, to make me look like an idiot in front of our kids and our neighbors. I never meant for it to go this far. How far did you mean for it to go? Just a little adultery? Just a small betrayal? Her office phone rang. She ignored it. What do you want from me, Tom? You want me to grovel? To beg for forgiveness? I want you to tell me the truth. All of it. How it started, how long it's been going on, who else knows? And then what? You'll forgive me, and we'll go back to the way things were? No. Then I'll decide how to destroy both of you. The words hung in the air between us. Melanie's face went pale. You don't mean that. Don't I? You've spent months making me look like a fool. Now it's your turn. I stood up and walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Melanie? You might want to call Aidan. He's having a bad day. I left her sitting in her corner office, staring out at a city that suddenly seemed a lot less friendly. The afternoon was spent making phone calls, first to Janet at the newspaper, confirming that the story about Aidan's tax problems would run Friday. Then to a friend who worked for the state unemployment office, mentioning Shannon's under-the-table catering work. Finally to Coach Martinez, asking him to keep an eye on Eli for the next few days. Things are going to get complicated, I told him. I don't want my son caught in the middle. Of course, Tom. But are you sure about whatever you're planning? Sometimes it's better to take the high road. The high road is for people who haven't been stabbed in the back by their wife and best friend. By evening, I was back at the boxing gym, working out the day's tension on the heavy bags. Big Mike watched from his office, occasionally calling out corrections to my form. You're telegraphing your right hook, he said during a break. Your opponent sees it coming from next week. Good thing I'm not fighting anyone. Aren't you? I looked at him, sweat dripping down my face. What's that supposed to mean? You're in a fight, Tom. Maybe not with your fists, but you're in a fight. And the same rules apply. Don't let your opponent see what's coming. I think I've been pretty subtle so far. Have you? Because word around town is that you're planning something big. People are taking sides, placing bets on how this plays out. That stopped me cold. What kind of bets? Whether you'll take Melanie back, whether Aidan's business survives, whether you'll do something stupid that lands you in jail. What's the smart money saying? That you're not the same guy who walked out of his house 2 days ago. That maybe people underestimated the quiet contractor with the beat-up truck. I went back to the heavy bag, processing what Mike had told me. If people were talking, placing bets, then word was spreading faster than I'd expected. That could work in my favor, or it could force my hand before I was ready. My phone buzzed. A text from Ruby. Dad, Mom's really upset. She's been crying all day. Can you please come home? My daughter. Still trying to fix things. Still believing that families could be put back together if everyone just tried hard enough. I texted back, I'll call you tonight. Are you okay? I guess. But everything's weird now. Mom's friend Aidan keeps coming over and Eli won't talk to him. Mrs. Green keeps staring at our house. I hate this. I know, sweetheart. It'll be over soon. Promise? I stared at the phone for a long moment before responding. I promise. But I wasn't sure if I was promising to fix things or to finish destroying them. Friday morning brought Rain and Janet Peterson's newspaper story. The headline read, Local Realtors' Properties Carry Unpaid Tax Liens. Below it, a photo of Aidan looking confident at some charity event, back when his biggest worry was which BMW to drive. I bought 5 copies from the machine outside the diner and spread them across the table while I ate breakfast. The story was thorough, professional, devastating. Janet had done her homework, interviewing tax officials, real estate experts, even some of Aidan's clients who were now questioning their investments. The best part was the quote from the city tax assessor. Property owners who fail to research liens before purchase either don't understand basic real estate law or are hoping to pass the problem along to unsuspecting buyers. My phone started ringing at 7:30. First Melanie, then Aidan, then Shannon. I let them all go to voicemail. Instead, I drove to the high school where Eli had a soccer game. My son was warming up with his team when I arrived, but he spotted me in the stands and waved. For a moment, the anger and betrayal faded. Whatever happened between Melanie and me, Eli was still my boy. The game was close, physical, the kind of contest that kept parents on the edge of their seats. Eli played well, setting up 2 goals and nearly scoring one himself. During halftime, he jogged over to where I sat. "Dad, you came." "Wouldn't miss it, buddy. You're playing great." "Thanks." "Hey, is everything okay at home? Mom's been acting weird and Ruby keeps crying." How do you explain to a 12-year-old that his family is falling apart? That his mother betrayed his father? That his sister is broadcasting the drama on social media? That nothing will ever be the same again? "Your mom and I are having some problems," I said carefully. "But it's not your fault, and it doesn't change how much I love you." "Are you getting divorced?" The question hit like a punch to the gut. "I don't know yet, Eli. Maybe." "Will I still see you?" "Every day if I can manage it. You're the most important thing in my life." He nodded, trying to process information no kid should have to handle. Then the whistle blew, and he jogged back to his team. I stayed for the second half, cheering when Eli's team won, taking photos with my phone like any other proud parent. But I could feel eyes on me, whispers in the stands. The story was spreading beyond the newspaper. After the game, I was walking to my truck when someone called my name. I turned to see Aidan approaching, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "Tom, we need to talk." "Do we? I thought the newspaper covered everything pretty well." "You know that story will ruin me." "That's the idea." Aidan looked around nervously. We were in the school parking lot, surrounded by families and kids. Not the place for a confrontation, but desperation makes people do stupid things. "How much?" he asked. "How much what?" "To make this stop. The newspaper story, whatever else you're planning. I'll pay you to back off." I almost laughed. "You think this is about money?" "Everything's about money, Tom. Name your price." "My price is my wife back, my marriage restored, my kids' respect returned, and my reputation rebuilt. Can you write a check for that?" Aidan's face crumpled. "Tom, please. I made a mistake. We both did. But destroying me won't fix your marriage." "Maybe not. But it'll make me feel better." I climbed into my truck and drove away, leaving him standing in the parking lot like a man watching his life collapse in real time. The afternoon was spent at my job site, trying to focus on work while my phone buzzed constantly. The crew could sense something was happening, but they were smart enough not to ask questions. Around 3 o'clock, Jimmy pulled me aside. "Boss, you might want to see this." He showed me his phone, open to Ruby's TikTok account. My daughter had posted a video titled "My Dad's Revenge Era," with dramatic music and clips of newspaper headlines, crying selfies, and commentary about how toxic masculinity was destroying her family. The video had been viewed 12,000 times in 2 hours. "She's 17, I said, handing back the phone. "She doesn't understand what she's doing." "Maybe not, but the whole town's watching now. This thing's gone viral, at least locally." Great. My family's destruction was entertainment for teenagers with smartphones. I called Ruby directly. She answered on the first ring. "Dad, did you see my video?" "I saw it. Take it down." "Why?" "I'm just telling my truth. Your truth is based on half the story. You don't know what your mother did. I know you're trying to destroy her. Mom showed me the newspaper article. How could you do that to Aidan? Aidan did it to himself when he decided to cheat with my wife. Silence. Then, what are you talking about? Ask your mother, Ruby. Ask her why I really left. I hung up and turned off my phone. Enough drama for one day. That evening at the boxing gym, Big Mike was waiting with a serious expression. We need to talk, he said, leading me to his office. If this is about the newspaper story, it's about what comes next. Tom, you've made your point. Aidan's business is finished. Your wife's been exposed. Everyone knows you're not the pushover they thought you were. Maybe it's time to step back. Step back? I'm just getting started. That's what I'm worried about. You've got that look in your eyes, the same one you had when you were 15 and ready to fight the whole world. Maybe the whole world needs fighting. Mike leaned back in his chair, studying me like a puzzle he couldn't solve. You know what happened to the last guy who came in here with that attitude? He ended up in prison for assault. Lost everything. Wife, kids, house, future. This is different. Is it? Because from where I sit, it looks like you're about to cross a line you can't uncross. I stood up to leave, but Mike's voice stopped me. Tom, I've known you for 27 years. You're not a destroyer. You're a builder. Don't let anger turn you into something you're not. I walked out without responding, but his words followed me to the motel. My room felt smaller than before, the walls closing in with accumulated rage and loneliness. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone, knowing I should call my kids, should try to repair some of the damage. Instead, I opened my laptop and started planning phase 2. If they thought the newspaper story was bad, they hadn't seen anything yet. Shannon's unemployment fraud would be reported Monday morning. I had documentation of her under-the-table work, photos of her catering events, even testimony from people who'd paid her cash. Melanie's boss would receive an anonymous tip about her affair, along with evidence that she'd been conducting personal business during work hours. Her company had strict policies about professional conduct. And Aidan was about to discover that his tax problems were just the beginning. I spent the weekend making calls, sending emails, setting up the dominoes for a spectacular fall. By Sunday night, I had everything in place. Monday would be a day of reckoning. But first, I had one more call to make. I turned my phone back on and dialed Eli's number. Dad? Where have you been? I've been calling you all weekend. I'm sorry, buddy. I needed some time to think. How are you doing? Not good. Mom and Ruby had a huge fight. Ruby's video got shared everywhere, and now kids at school are asking me about it, and Mom's been crying a lot. What did Ruby and Mom fight about? Ruby asked Mom about what you said, about Aidan. Mom got really mad and told Ruby to mind her own business. Then Ruby started crying and locked herself in her room. So the truth was coming out, one painful conversation at a time. Eli, I want you to know that whatever happens between your mom and me, it's not your fault, and I'm going to make sure you're okay. I know, Dad, but I wish you'd come home. Everything's messed up without you here. I can't come home yet, son, but I'll see you soon, okay? Okay. I love you, Dad. I love you too. After I hung up, I sat in the dark motel room thinking about Big Mike's words. Was I becoming something I wasn't? Had anger transformed me into the villain of my own story? Maybe. But sometimes the world needed villains. Sometimes nice guys had to stop being nice to get justice. Tomorrow everyone would learn what happened when you pushed Tom Patterson too far. I just hoped my kids would forgive me when it was over. Monday morning arrived gray and cold, matching my mood as I drove through town. The newspaper story had done its work over the weekend. 3 for sale signs had appeared on Aidan's properties, and I'd heard through the construction grapevine that 2 of his biggest clients had canceled contracts. But that was just the appetizer. I parked outside the unemployment office and watched Shannon walk in, probably for her weekly check-in. She had no idea that her file now contained photos of her working catering events, testimonials from people who'd paid her cash, and a detailed report of her fraudulent activity. My phone buzzed. A text from Danny. "It's done. Shannon's case has been flagged for investigation. Phase 1 complete." Next stop was Melanie's office building. I didn't go inside, just sat in my truck across the street, watching. At 9:15, a woman in a business suit entered the building carrying a manila envelope. Janet Peterson had a friend in corporate compliance who owed her a favor. By now, Melanie's boss was reading a detailed report about her affair, complete with photos, phone records, and documentation of personal meetings during work hours. The company had zero tolerance for conduct that reflected poorly on their professional image. My phone rang. Melanie calling from work. "Tom, what did you do?" "Good morning to you too. I'm sitting in HR right now. They have photos of me and Aidan, phone records, everything. How did you get this information? You weren't exactly subtle. Half the town knew about your affair before I did." "They're talking about firing me." "That's unfortunate. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to cheat on your husband." "Tom, please. I have a mortgage, car payments, kids to support. I need this job. You should have considered that 6 months ago." I hung up and drove to the construction site where my crew was working. Jimmy and Carlos were installing drywall, the familiar rhythm of honest work, continuing despite the chaos in my personal life. "Morning, boss," Jimmy called out. "You look better today." "Feel better too. Sometimes you have to clean house before you can rebuild." Around noon, my phone started buzzing with calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Reporters, probably, following up on the Aidan story. I let them all go to voicemail. But one call I did answer. Big Mike. "Tom, you need to get down here now." "What's wrong?" "Just get here." I found Mike in his office, looking grim. Sitting across from him was Aidan, and he looked terrible. Unshaven, wrinkled clothes, the kind of desperation that comes from watching your life fall apart in real time. "What's he doing here?" I asked. "He came to me," Mike said. "Asked me to set up a meeting. Said it was important." I looked at Aidan, noting the tremor in his hands, the hollow look in his eyes. "You've got 5 minutes." "Tom, I'm ruined. The newspaper story, the tax problems, clients canceling contracts, I'm going to lose everything." "Good. But it's not just me. Melanie's about to be fired. Shannon's being investigated for fraud. You're destroying everyone. Everyone destroyed themselves. I'm just making sure there are consequences." Aidan leaned forward, desperation making him bold. "What if I told you that Melanie never wanted the affair? That Shannon pushed her into it?" That got my attention. "What are you talking about?" "Shannon set the whole thing up. She's the one who suggested Melanie work with me on marketing projects. She's the one who encouraged Melanie to go out for drinks after work. She practically threw us together." "Why would she do that?" "Because she hates you, Tom. She's never gotten over being fired from your company. This was her way of getting revenge." I looked at Mike, who was listening intently, then back at Aidan. "Even if that's true, it doesn't excuse what you did, what Melanie did." "I know. But Tom, Melanie loves you. She made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but she loves you and the kids more than anything." Funny way of showing it. Aidan pulled out his phone and showed me a text conversation. Messages between him and Shannon, dating back 8 months. Shannon suggesting he call Melanie about a marketing project. Shannon arranging social events where they'd be thrown together. Shannon providing updates on my work schedule so they'd know when I'd be away. "She orchestrated the whole thing," Aidan said. "I thought it was coincidence at first, but look at these messages. She planned every step." I scrolled through the conversation, anger building with each message. Shannon hadn't just known about the affair, she'd engineered it. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I'm hoping you'll have mercy. On Melanie, on me, on everyone caught in this mess." "Mercy?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want mercy? Here's your mercy. I'm not going to destroy you physically. I'm not going to burn down your house or slash your tires or beat you senseless, even though you deserve all of that. Tom, I'm not finished. You took my wife, my friend, my marriage, my family's respect. You made me a joke in my own town. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to disappear. Sell whatever properties you can, pay your debts, and leave town. If I see you again, if you contact my wife again, if you so much as drive down my street, I will make what's happened so far look like a gentle warning. Aidan nodded quickly. Okay. Yes, I'll leave. And Shannon? I looked at the phone again, studying her messages. Shannon's going to learn what happens when you manipulate the wrong person. I walked out of Mike's office, leaving Aidan sitting there like a broken man. But I wasn't done yet. The real architect of this destruction was still out there, probably congratulating herself on a job well done. Time to pay Shannon Walsh a visit. I found her at home, a small apartment on the wrong side of town. She answered the door in a bathrobe, looking surprised to see me. Tom, what are you doing here? We need to talk. I don't think that's a good idea. You seem unstable. Unstable? That's interesting, coming from someone who spent 8 months orchestrating my marriage's destruction. Her face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. I showed her Aidan's phone, the text messages she'd sent. Really? Because I've got documentation of every step of your little plan. Shannon tried to close the door, but I put my foot in the way. Not aggressively, just firmly. 3 years, I said. 3 years you've been carrying a grudge because I fired you for showing up to work intoxicated. 3 years of planning your revenge. You ruined my life. I fired an employee who was a liability. You destroyed a family. Your family was already broken. Melanie was miserable. Your kids were embarrassed by you. Everyone knew you were a loser. Maybe. But that was our problem to solve. You had no right to interfere. Shannon's phone rang. She glanced at it, and her face went even paler. That's the unemployment office. They want to discuss your fraudulent claims. Seems someone reported that you've been working under the table while collecting benefits. You can't prove anything. I have photos, Shannon, witnesses, bank records showing cash deposits that don't match your reported income. You're looking at fraud charges, repayment of benefits, probably some jail time. She slumped against the door frame, the fight going out of her. What do you want? I want you to disappear. Just like Aidan. Leave town, start over somewhere else, and never contact my family again. And if I don't? Then you'll find out exactly how creative I can be when someone threatens my family. I walked away, leaving her standing in her doorway, probably calculating how quickly she could pack her belongings and run. The drive home took 15 minutes, but it felt like a lifetime. I hadn't been back to my house since Wednesday, hadn't seen my family except for glimpses at Eli's soccer game. Now, sitting in my driveway, I wasn't sure what I'd find inside. The front door was unlocked. I walked into my own home like a stranger, noting the subtle changes. Aidan's coffee mug in the sink, a men's jacket I didn't recognize hanging in the closet, evidence of another man's presence in my space. Tom? Melanie appeared in the kitchen doorway, looking exhausted. You're home. For now. The kids are at school, we can talk. I followed her to the kitchen, the same room where this had all started 5 days ago, but everything was different now. The balance of power had shifted. I lost my job, she said quietly. I heard. Aidan's leaving town. He came by this morning to say goodbye. Good. Shannon's disappeared. Her landlord says she packed up and left without notice. Also, good. Melanie sat down at the kitchen table, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Tom, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. For the affair? Or for getting caught? For all of it. For lying. For cheating. For letting Shannon manipulate me into destroying our marriage. So you admit she manipulated you? I should have seen what she was doing, should have been stronger, But Tom, I was so unhappy, and you were always working, and Shannon kept saying I deserved better. So this is my fault? No, that's not what I meant. I made the choice. I'm responsible for what I did. But Shannon, she knew exactly what buttons to push. I looked at my wife of 16 years, seeing her clearly for maybe the first time. Not the successful marketing executive or the unfaithful spouse, but a woman who'd made terrible choices and was now facing the consequences. What happens now? She asked. I don't know. Can we try to fix this? Go to counseling? Work on our marriage? I don't know that either. We sat in silence, two people who'd shared a life trying to figure out if there was anything left to save. My phone buzzed, a text from Eli. Dad, are you coming home today? I miss you. I showed Melanie the message. He's been asking about you every day, she said. Ruby too, even though she won't admit it. Ruby hates me right now. Ruby's 17. She hates everyone right now, but she needs her father. Maybe that was true. Maybe there was something worth salvaging from the wreckage of our marriage. Or maybe I was just tired of being angry, tired of being the villain in my own story. I'll stay in the guest room, I said finally. For the kids. We'll figure out the rest later. Melanie nodded, tears in her eyes. Thank you. I went upstairs to unpack my bags, feeling like a stranger in my own home. Through the window, I could see Mrs. Green watching from next door, probably wondering what new drama was about to unfold. But for the first time in days, I felt something other than anger. Not forgiveness. That would take time, if it came at all. But maybe the beginning of acceptance that some battles end not with victory or defeat, but with exhaustion. The war was over. Now came the harder part, figuring out how to live with the aftermath. When Eli came home from school and saw me in the kitchen, his face lit up like Christmas morning. Dad, you're home! I hugged my son, holding him tight, and for a moment everything else faded away. The affair, the revenge, the destruction I'd caused, none of it mattered as much as this 12-year-old boy who still believed his father was a hero. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything.